Welcome to WBLK TV. We're Black Television. Today's guest is Mr. Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass is an author, an abolitionist, a freedom fighter, and actually a former enslaved American. Good afternoon, Mr. Douglass. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we see that you have a new book out called The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, and we want to just interview you today about it and just allow you to share a little bit about your book and tell us a little bit about your life with our viewers. If you don't mind, I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions, and you can just kind of share with us as you like.
Yes.
I guess we should start with talking about where you were born.
Okay, well, I was born in Talbot County in Maryland, 1818. They do not know the month or the exact date when I was born.
So you don't actually know your birthday?
No, I was born a slave, so they didn't let us have certain information about ourselves and stuff like that.
Okay, I understand. So it seems like information was something that they kept from you, like your birthday. So I guess some people I've heard made up birthdays and just decide to celebrate whenever, but you decided to keep yours blank.
Yes.
Okay. How did you gain your freedom? You said you were a slave. What did you do to gain your freedom?
So first I disguised myself as a free sailor. And what I basically did was I got seaman papers from an old friend that I knew. And what I did was I caught a train that goes from Baltimore to Philadelphia. And before you get onto the train conductor asks for freedman papers. And those freedman papers show if you're a free American or not. And my seaman papers show that I was a free American. So I gave him my seaman papers and everything was okay.
Wow, that sounds exciting and even harrowing.
Yes.
Are there other ways for an enslaved person to become free?
Yes, but the most dangerous one would be running away from your plantation, because you can even get captured again, and it would be serious consequences. Sorry. Another one would be buying your own freedom, which was something that you were able to do, and another one would be you would be able to be emancipated.
Emancipated. That sounds like the word emancipation.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Emancipation means to be free from your own restricted, basically.
Okay, so to be free from your restrictions.
Yes.
Okay. What was daily life like as a slave?
Daily life was traumatizing. I saw with my own eyes a lot of things that would be horrible to people who would have saw other things when they were free, and I wasn't. I was with myself from my own slave master, and I've witnessed my own aunt being whipped. I saw my cousin have his slave master's foot stomped into his head until blood has come out of his nose and ears, and they basically tormented my people's life every day, and it was something bad.
So it sounds like every day was full of abuse and torment.
Yes, it was.
Why is education so important to you? You stress that a lot in your book.
Education is really important to me because, well, let me go back. So when I was a slave and I was really young, my slave master, his name was Mr. Old, and his wife, Mrs. Old, taught me how to read, and she taught me my ABCs. So basically, when Mr. Old figured out that Mrs. Old was teaching me, he forbid her from teaching me again. And I asked myself, why was this really important, that I could know nothing but to obey my slave master? And then I figured out that myself was that knowledge is power, and it's really strong. So with me to know that little piece of information, I could be a threat to everybody.
Wow. That's incredible. How do you feel about living in a country, the United States, that calls itself the land of the free while it tolerates slavery?
At first, I thought it was just them being dishonest, but as when I became free, I started to learn more about the law and citizens as an abolitionist. And what I figured out was that the U.S. Constitution wasn't written for me or my people. It was always the country was always meant for me to be a servant, which is why I started out, which is why slavery exists, basically.
Okay, so it sounds like that the U.S. Constitution was really only written for white men.
Yes, that is exactly true.
Okay. What does it feel like for someone else to say that they own you?
To be, well, it feels horrible, honestly. When I was being owned as a slave by somebody else, I felt like I wasn't even human. They canceled me out into different things, and they didn't even consider me human. They treat me and my people like animals.
Wow. So that means that they determined every aspect of your daily life. When you got up, when you worked, when you went to sleep?
Yes.
Wow. How did some of the events that happened in your life make you stronger?
A lot of events that happen in my life make me stronger by giving me the drive and discipline and maturity to show that I can stand up for what I think is right. And one thing that these all of these events help add up to is when I figured out that I have nothing to lose anymore. And I decided to fight back on my slave master. And what basically happened was when he tried to whip me again, I fought back and actually won. And he retreated. And since then, he never whooped me again.
Wow, that's incredible. That was really courageous and also very dangerous because
Yes.
many slaves were killed for fighting back against the people that thought that they owned them.
Yes.
What was the Freedmen Bank?
The Freedmen Bank was a bank that the U.S. Congress made for free blacks to go to get capital after they were free and not in slavery anymore. I became the president of the Freedmen Bank in 1874, and basically what I wanted to do was to repair it because I knew that certain things were starting to happen for it and it was starting to go downhill. So I gave a lot of my money and time into it, but eventually it was too late, so I failed, and now it was over.
Wow. One of the slave masters that you had, Edward Covey, referred to himself as a slave breaker. What does that mean?
So my old slave master, Edward Covey, he called himself a slave breaker because he found joy in beating slaves, and he whipped me too, and he whipped everybody else, and it was one of his favorite things to do. So that was basically what a slave breaker was. He would just break every single slave that he could with joy.
Okay, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Now that you are free, how do you earn a living?
Well, now I am an abolitionist. I am an author, and I am a newspaper writer, and also do a lot of biographies and autobiographies.
Okay, well, that's just a few quick questions today from the life and times of Frederick Douglass. We want to thank our guest for coming to share with us and tell us a little bit about his story and about his new book. We thank you so much for coming to join us on WBLK TV.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hopefully you can come back another time. Goodbye.